Hey, budding lawyers, welcome to the podcast. Today, we are going to have a chat with Ms. Priyasha Corrie. Ms. Priyasha is a corporate lawyer and an entrepreneur in the legal domain. She not only cleared the QLTS examination, but also started a venture named QLTS Geek and Könnected Law. Hi, Priyasha. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Prasanna. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. So, firstly, congratulations on starting these startups in the legal domain. And let's start with this. Please tell us about both of your startups.
Perfect. First of all, Prasanna, I'm super excited to be here today and to speak to all the students who are following you. Happy to talk about my two startups. One is Könnected Law, and the other one is QLTS Geek. So Könnected Law is a law firm based in the United Arab Emirates, which is in the Middle East, for those of you who might not know.
Yeah, Dubai is more famous than UAE.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, for a long time, I didn't really know anything about the Middle East, and well, somehow I landed up in the Middle East. So I think sometimes you just never know where life takes you.
Yeah.
So at Könnected Law, we call ourselves a new age law firm, and what we do is we help connect clients with senior lawyers and boutique law firms who have the relevant expertise. So just to give you an example, if a client is looking for IP assistance, then what we do is we connect the client with a law firm who specifically does IP work.
Okay.
Also, a lot of senior lawyers, they set up their own practice. So what we do is we try and we give them a platform where they can collaborate with other lawyers. So for example, a corporate lawyer can refer disputes to a litigation lawyer, or they can refer IP work to an IP lawyer. So that's what we are aiming to do with Könnected Law. We connect people, we connect clients with lawyers, and we connect lawyers with each other as well.
So, in short, we can say that you are Zomato for lawyers.
Yeah, you could probably just say that. Actually, probably a better app is like a better word is the Uber. We call ourselves
Uber.
like
Yeah.
Uber for lawyers.
Yeah.
So that's Könnected Law.
Hmm.
In terms of QLTS Geek, QLTS Geek is an application. It's a web and a mobile application, which is meant to help students with qualifying as a solicitor in the UK. So that's what we do at the moment, although we're in the process of revamping and rebranding ourselves. We do want to now not just be an app for, let's say, the UK. We also want to expand into other areas, and hopefully India as well, where we sort of help law students with preparing for exams or law related exams. So yeah, I mean, we're in the process of rebranding, and yeah, so if any of you are interested in taking part in a project, then feel free to let me know, and we can happy to always have helping hands.
I'll put your LinkedIn contact in the bio, so y'all can check it out.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thanks, Prasanna.
Okay, so what is this QLTS exam for? Like, you can explain it in short because many people may not know it. And how is the exam format of QLTS, and how is this exam conducted?
Perfect. So the QLTS stands for Qualified Lawyers Transfer Scheme, and this exam is meant for foreign qualified lawyers who wish to qualify as a solicitor in the UK. So, for example, if you're a lawyer and if you're an advocate in India, then you can write the QLTS exam, and if you clear the exam, then you can become an English solicitor. Now, why do people write this exam? There are two key reasons why people would like to take this exam. One is, if you want to practice in the UK in the future, then, of course, you would need to be qualified in the UK, and so you would have to take this exam. The second reason why people take this is it's always good to have an international qualification which is globally recognized. So the English qualification is something which holds a lot of prestige world over. So if you're an English qualified solicitor, then people will always give you, a level of, let's say, a certain respect when you go to different jurisdictions, especially if you want to practice internationally. Also, it's more recognized. So just to give you a little bit of an example, Mr. Gopal Subramaniam, he recently, officially became a barrister in the UK. And I think the same was for Harish Salve as well.
Hmm.
Because, and why, the thing is that they're already, acclaimed lawyers in India, but why did they really need to get that additional qualification? And I think it's because there's a certain level of prestige associated with being, an English qualified lawyer. So yeah, I would say these are the two key reasons why people take the QLTS. Now, in terms of the format, the QLTS comprises of comprises of two parts. The first is the MCT, which is the multiple choice test, and the second is the OSCE, OSCE. Now, the first level essentially is a multiple choice exam of about like 180 questions. It's actually quite challenging, even though it sounds easy, multiple choice, but it does involve quite a lot of preparation. And there are about 11 subjects involved. So, going through them can be a little challenging, especially if you're working. If you're not working, then I would say it's a bit easier because then you have more time. So the subjects range from English legal system, constitutional law, contracts, torts, criminal law, business law. So essentially all the basic subjects that you would need to study in any jurisdiction to qualify as a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that exam can be taken online, and you have various exam centers spread across throughout the world. So you do have a few exam centers in India as well. There are a couple of centers in the UAE, and then, of course, in London, and Singapore, and all the common law countries. The second level is the OSCE, the OSCE. And the second level is more of a practical exam where you actually need to travel to the UK, and you have various assessments such as interviewing a client. So you actually meet a real sort of an actor, but a client, and you need to conduct an interview for the client. There's a presentation that you need to do before a client or even a judge where you're basically doing a little bit of advocacy work. There's legal research, there's legal drafting, and there's legal writing. So it's quite a practical assessment that needs to be taken in London. Now, just before I, finish completing talking about the QLTS, I would also like to let, all the whoever's the audience know is that there's a new exam coming up. So the UK, they're essentially replacing the QLTS. So the QLTS is basically in the process of being phased out. And by 2022, you will no longer be able to take the QLTS. And what you would have to take is the SQE. It's called the Solicitor's Qualifying Examination. Now, this is quite a big change in the UK because this exam is not just meant for foreign lawyers. It's meant for everybody who wants to qualify as a solicitor in the UK. So just to give you an example, like earlier, QLTS was only meant for foreign lawyers. And if you studied in the UK and if you're taking the LLB in the UK, then you would have had to get a training contract in order to qualify as a solicitor. Now they're slowly removing the whole concept of a training contract, and what they're implementing instead is the SQE. So let's say if you study the LLB in the UK, then you would have to actually take the SQE to qualify as a solicitor. So essentially, this is an exam which is more of a unified exam for everybody. So even foreign lawyers will now have to take the SQE in order to qualify as a solicitor. And they're actually implementing the SQE from September 2021.
Okay.
There is a little bit of a transition period for those people who've already taken the first level of the QLTS, but I think for most law students, what would now be relevant is the SQE. Now, in terms of the format, the SQE is pretty much, in a way, very similar. there are two parts. There's SQE1 and there's SQE2. The SQE1 is again a multiple choice exam, and the SQE2 is more of a practical exam, and it's pretty much similar. You have client interview, client advocacy, legal research, drafting, and writing. The only difference being is that I feel like it's probably a little more difficult. SQE1, like for example, MCT had 180 questions, but the SQE1, it has about 360 questions and it's spread across 2 days. Because the 180 questions is actually, you have it's an assessment over about 4 hours, so it is a bit of a marathon, I would say, with a break in between, so a total of maybe about 5 hours. Whereas the SQE1 now is 360 questions and it's spread across 2 days, and in terms
Two
of the
days.
subject, yeah, 2 days.
Okay.
So it's pretty much, I mean, the subjects are almost the same. There are slight differences. In fact, the syllabus has increased a bit more. It's a bit like you have a little bit more subjects to cover, but the format is pretty much the same. I think they will have centers all across the world.
So the major difference here is that now there's a common examination for
Yeah.
foreign lawyers and as well as those who study their law from UK itself, and it is more difficult now than the previous exam.
Yeah, I would say so, because they would want to make it difficult so that there's a certain level of standard maintained. So yeah, I would say that you're also competing with people who's studying in the UK, right? So there's a case where let's say the level might be a little high, because when it comes to foreign lawyers, let's say that they would sort of understand that maybe the level of proficiency in English might not be that great, so they would sort of account for that when they're making their assessments. But now you're competing with people who are in the UK, and so the pass percentage, there could be a slight difference. Of course, we don't know. It's being implemented in September 2021, so we'll get to see in the next couple of years how the new assessment is being implemented.
Yeah, this is just a prediction, and from you, because you have experience of teaching people, coaching people how to crack the exam, so that's valid. Also, so regarding the subjects, you told us contract and English legal system and so many, these are the subjects. But if you want to rate it on a scorecard, the according to a level of difficulty, which subject is more difficult than the other ones? Like difficult as in it takes more preparation.
A
What do you
good
think?
question, Prasanna. So I think when it comes to the first level, the multiple choice test, I would say the more challenging subjects are property law and equity and trusts, because we have a lot of concepts which can be a little challenging. Things like easements, and property law generally has certain concepts which are a little difficult to grasp. Even equity and trust, for that matter, because it's a concept you don't really come across every day. Every day. Like for example, business law is something that you would come across every day if you're a corporate lawyer. But equity and trust and property law can have like certain concepts which you probably have not really come across in your home countries, like in India. So I would say property law and trusts are challenging. The rest of them are, I would say, manageable. There's of course taxation. Taxation can of course always be, tax is always a little bit of a tricky subject anywhere that you go. There's also solicitors accounts, which can be a little difficult because as lawyers we're not really accountants, so to grasp those accounting concepts it can take time. So I would say these are the key subjects which are difficult in the first level. In the second level, I would say, in terms of the more practical assessments, it can be civil and criminal litigation can be a little challenging for those people who are not used to litigation subjects. So, for example, I'm a corporate lawyer. So, for me, it took me a little while to grasp certain concepts in civil and criminal litigation. Um, The other challenging bit I would say is of course this tax, which is challenging, and business law as well. Like for the second level, where it's a little bit more of a practical assessment, I would say business law can be challenging because there are a lot of sections you might have to memorize. There are a lot of concepts which are which you'll have to sort of grasp, which can be a little difficult to do when you're used to a different sort of a legal system. So I would
Got
just
it.
say that there's a lot to keep in mind, lot to memorize for business law. So it's actually, I would say, a bit of a challenge. So even as a corporate lawyer, for me, I found it a bit challenging.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Okay, so how much does it usually cost? Like, can you give a rough idea? And are there any kind of fee waivers for especially foreign students? Because taking this exam, the fees is in dollars. So especially people from like India and similar countries, it will be the cost must be very high, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, the first level is about, it's about like £1,000. I'm not sure in dollars how much that would be. And the second part is about, £1,500. I mean, these are really approximate rates, and that's the
Hmm.
QLTS. The SQE in total is about, I would say, £2,500 in total. I could be wrong, don't quote me, but
Yeah, it's a
these
rough idea. That's it.
yeah, it's just a rough idea. To my knowledge, there are no fee waivers as such.
Okay.
Having said that, these are not the only costs that you incur, for these exams. You also need to take into account that you might have to subscribe to a training provider because it's very difficult to prepare by yourself. And then you also have to take into account, okay, let's say in the future, if you were to travel to London to take the second level, there are quite a few expenses. It's your visa expenses, your stay. Because for the second part, I forgot to mention, but you have to be in London for close to 2 weeks because it's an exam spread across 6 days.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Okay.
almost, maybe a week or a week and a half, you'll have to be in London. And it's always better to come a little bit in advance, right? To come in a few days before so that you acclimatize yourself and then you figure out how to travel and things like that. So, you have to account for a few days before the exam. So all of these expenses really add up. So I would say it makes sense if you're this exam makes sense if you have the funds to go ahead with it. And if you but if you don't have the funds and you're not sure whether this exam is going to be useful, then I would say then probably think about it whether you really want to take the QLTS. Because let's say that if you want to go to another country like Canada or Australia, then you'd rather just take the Canadian bar. Because some people, what they think is that, okay, let's take the QLTS and in the future I'll take the Canadian bar. Or in the future, I'll qualify as an Australian solicitor as well. I would say, try and take a few steps back. If your ultimate goal is to go to a country like Canada or Australia, then just focus on clearing the bar exam in that country and forget about the QLTS. Um, you can probably think about it later because it is an expensive exam. So you need to be clear with what your goals are and why you're taking this exam.
Right. Right. Okay, now let's get back a little back when you cleared this exam. So we would like to know how did you plan for the exam and what were the kind of tips you want to give?
So the thing is that one of the things in the Middle East is that you have a lot of English law firms. So, they do recognize the English law qualification. So, in fact, a lot of job opportunities here as well. You would see that one of the requirements is a UK qualified lawyer.
Hmm.
So that's one of the reasons why when I came to the Middle East, I thought, okay, it might just make sense for me to take to take this assessment, to take this exam and qualify. Also, of course, at that point in time, I was working at a law firm, so I was able to sort of manage my budget in such a way that I could actually afford the exam. So that's the reason why I took the QLTS in the first place. In terms of the first level, uh, I mean, I would just say that the challenge was, to be honest, I prepared for the first level in about 2 to 3 months, which is not ideal. I feel like you need to have at least 4 months apportioned for the exam. But yeah, managing work and studying can be a little challenging. So I used to essentially prepare during my weekend. So I didn't really have a life during my weekends for those couple of months. So that was the first level. The second level was, again, I devoted a little bit more time. I think I started about 6 months in advance, and although the intensity only increased, towards the end. But yeah, it was similar. It was just reading and studying during my weekends, or sometimes early in the morning, or in the evening after coming back from work.
Okay.
In fact, you know, November was when I had given the exam, November 2017, and I actually got married in September 2017. So, I did all of this, while while preparing for my wedding as well. But I somehow, I guess I suppose I'm a bit of a career-oriented person, so I
Yeah.
somehow, like just devoted the time to study for the exam as well. I did fly into London a few days before the exam to just settle down, which I found was very useful. And yeah, I mean, like, I think the 6 days were challenging because when you're working, you're not really used to a test. You're not used to taking a test. You're not used to being assessed. So those 6 days, I would say it was challenging because you have like because there are 18 assessments in total, and they're all different types, right? You have one is an interview with a client, the other one is advocacy, then you have research, drafting, writing. So I would say, yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a challenge, but it was interesting, But once you clear the challenge, you feel, it's a good feeling. So definitely clearing the QLTS was an interesting experience, and I would say it was great to learn as well.
Hmm.
It was, when you practice all the mocks for these practical assessments, I feel like you become a better lawyer. For example, you improve on your interviewing skills, you improve on your advocacy skills, you improve your research, writing skills. You learn a lot of many skills along the way. And I also feel like in the UK, they place a lot of importance on professional conduct, which is not as much as in. I just felt like in India there was not that much of an emphasis. So I feel like I learned a lot in terms of professional conduct and ethics, in terms of the different concepts and why lawyers have to do certain things in certain ways. And I feel like those are really best practices in the legal profession. So for me to learn that, I just feel like I really enjoyed that. Because I feel like ethics is really the cornerstone of the legal profession. And I feel like in the UK, they really put an emphasis on that. So I really enjoyed that.
Great. I mean, especially preparing for such exam while you're preparing for your wedding too, that was really challenging, I guess. I don't know
Yeah,
how you managed it.
yeah. Well, the thing is that clearly I didn't. I disregarded preparing much for the wedding. So I was lucky because my husband's sister, in fact, my sister-in-law is a wedding planner. So I
Oh.
didn't really have to do anything. I just had to make sure that I had a dress. That's about it. And then I just landed up there and did a lot of last minute shopping. In fact, 2 days before my wedding, I just figured out some accessories and stuff to go with my dress. And yeah, that's the plan that I did.
Yeah, so those were quite memorable experiences you have now.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Okay. Um, what do you think are the common challenges usually faced by students appearing for this exam? And also, what are the common mistakes they usually commit?
Well, I guess the first common challenge, of course, is funding. Not many people would have the funds to.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
it's I mean, it was for me as well, somehow figuring out the budget to take this exam. Um, and the second challenge would be balancing studying and working, because it's not easy, right? You're quite especially if you're practicing as a lawyer, you don't really have much time anyways.
Hmm.
So it's quite a challenge to prepare for this assessment, especially you're not even used to taking an exam once you start working. So those are the two key challenges. When it comes to the common mistakes people make, I feel like people tend to not practice their mock tests enough, because you need to remember that this is more of a practical assessment. So even for the multiple choice exam, it's quite it's quite a practical. So the questions are very practical in nature. So you need to really practice a lot of mocks in order to in order to be able to attempt them. So a lot of students, what I feel they do is that they read the textbooks, they want to cover all the theory, and only then they want to practice the mocks. But that, I would say that that's the wrong approach. You need to study and you need to practice the mocks at the same time. And sometimes that means practicing a mock even if you haven't really studied the subject, because I feel like when you practice a mock, then you understand how you need to study. Then you understand what are the important topics and how you can and then you can plan your studying. So I would say it's always useful to get an overview of all the subjects, and then quickly start practicing the mocks. Once you practice the mocks, then you would understand what are the key topics in each subject, and then you can focus a little bit on that, especially for the second part of the exam, because it's really practical, legal writing, drafting, research, client interview and advocacy. It's very important to manage your time well, and uh, and that's where practice comes into play. If you don't practice, then you would not know how to manage your time, you would not know how to study. So that's my tip. The most important tip that I would say to everybody is, don't forget about your mock tests. Studying is important, but practice your mocks and then study at the same time, side by side. So you need to really maintain this delicate balance.
Right. The more you practice, you will get an idea how the exam is conducted, like what type of questions are asked, what from what topic the questions are more frequent. So that will help a lot, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. In fact, a lot of people who don't clear the exam, they haven't really practiced, So uh, it's that's the common mistake that people make.
Hmm. Okay, so talking about QLTS Geek, there may be many institutes helping students in the preparation of this exam. How is QLTS Geek different from them, and what are your future plans with this project?
Yeah, I mean, QLTS Geek is I would say it's more of a supplement at this stage. So I wouldn't say that QLTS Geek is a replacement for any of the other institutes. I really respect what a lot of the institutes do, because I know it's a really tough job to help candidates qualify an exam. There's a lot of course material to prepare. You have to help them with the mocks as well. The idea of QLTS Geek is to essentially help students and candidates with bite-sized information. So I think the one place where a lot of institutes probably fail is that they bombard candidates with so much information that sometimes you don't even know where to start. So with QLTS Geek, the idea is to provide everybody with really bite-sized information and with cheat sheets and flashcards where you can actually learn on the go. Because when I was actually preparing for QLTS as a working lawyer, I just felt like I wanted an app, an application where I could just study or revise while I was traveling or while I was waiting in the office for something. Of course, I didn't want to carry on my heavy law books around.
Hmm.
Uh, and all of us, we carry our phones wherever we go, right? So I wanted something where I thought it would be great to create an app where people could study on the go with bite-sized information. So that's how QLTS came into being. We have flashcards on English law subjects. We have cheat sheets as well, and we have a few mock tests for the first part of the exam, but not for the second part. So creating, I'll be honest, creating content can be a little bit of a challenge. So we have like reasonably good content at the moment, but we are looking to have more content for the SQE as well. And what we're also planning to do is we're planning to make it a little bit of a marketplace where people can actually upload their notes and, like sell it to, and it's more of a marketplace where other candidates can buy content as well. But of course, initially we are going to be vetting the content. We will make sure that the content is up to the standards that we've set for ourselves, which is bite-sized and content which is very structured. So that's what QLTS Geek is about. So we essentially help you with providing an overview of all the subjects, and that's called like a summary or a bird's eye view. We have flashcards, we have cheat sheets on subjects, and I think that's essentially useful for those people who want to study or revise on the go.
Right, agree.
And we also have like mock tests, like mock exams for the first level, which is the multiple choice exam.
So for the second level, what do you have in the app?
Yeah, for the second level, we have essentially flashcards and cheat sheets. In fact, we're now looking to partner with various UK publishers so that we can get their content on our app. So hopefully, we were able to get that done pretty soon. And, maybe even a podcast on English law subjects.
Sure. That would be great. Okay. Please share an incident from your career which is very memorable to you.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a tough question as well. I think the key memorable events are, I would say, the time that I got my job, right? The first time that I cleared and got my job at Trilegal, I would say that was memorable. The first few years were memorable. They were really challenging and difficult, and I was questioning myself and my credibility a lot of times. So I would say those were memorable. And then of course the times with my mentors, the mentors who helped me with becoming a better lawyer, those were memorable. And then for me, a couple of other key, I would say, milestone events was me getting a secondment with BG, which is actually like British Gas. It's an oil and gas company. I would say that working in-house and getting that secondment opportunity was an amazing experience. Me moving from Mumbai to Dubai was also very memorable. And then me now, of course, now taking the plunge into entrepreneurship. It is really challenging, but well, I suppose it would make for a good memory, maybe 2-3 years down the line. But yeah, it is challenging at the moment because it's been about a year, and then I recently had a baby as well. So managing motherhood, work, entrepreneurship is a challenge. But I'm very keen to make it work out because then I think I would be able to set an example for many people as well and make the road easier for the coming generation of women.
Agree. That's something good I can hear from a budding entrepreneur, a senior lawyer but budding entrepreneur. Okay. Thank you so much, Priyasha, for this informative conversation and sharing your experience with us. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you like this episode, please share this episode with your colleagues, your friends who may benefit from this information. And also, if you want to stay connected with us, do follow us here so that you don't miss out a new episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasanna.